Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be in response to a subscriber who has asked me a very specific question about a tool that I was given by my psychologist during my treatment and my initial days of recovery. But first of all, I just wanted to say there was amazing progress here in Australia in terms of eating disorder awareness yesterday. ABC News, which is a news outlet here in Australia, really put the pressure on the government, specifically the Health Minister Greg Hunt, to do something about the appalling state of treatment funding awareness in Australia. And he responded to say it's time to put a spotlight on eating disorders. So a huge thank you to ABC News, a huge thank you to the parents in that piece that ABC did, who was talking about the children that they've lost to this horrible illness, which, as we know, avoidable, treatable, preventable. So that's major, that's big. I'm still trying to think up ways to capitalize on this momentum in Australia. So if you guys have any ideas, I'm always happy to hear them. So Scuff7 asked in the latest Q&A for me to share something that I've referred to in a bit more depth. And that is that when I first started going and seeing my psychologist, she did an exercise with me whereby she got me to imagine a future version of myself and got me to have a dialogue, an imaginary dialogue. This isn't Back to the Future 2. I didn't actually interact with this future version of myself, but did this exercise where I had a conversation with a future version of myself. Now, the first time she got me to do this, I was really skeptical and a bit like, oh, this is such like a therapy exercise. And I didn't want to have that experience in therapy of like, lie back on the couch and, you know, let's do some kumbayaing and, I don't know, oming and meditation. Because as much as I now know those things are actually pretty great, I'm a fairly cynical person, if you couldn't tell. So I was a little bit skeptical, but she got me to close my eyes and imagine a future version of myself who was healthy and who was well and who had recovered and was now successful and fulfilled and as happy as a person can possibly be and content, and all the things that I didn't think I would ever be or currently was, but desperately wanted to be. And I really struggled at first to take the exercise seriously, and then it occurred to me I was really struggling to see a future version of myself. Anyway, we persisted, and then this image did materialize, and she got me to imagine where she would be. And I imagined she was on the South Coast, which is where my family lives, a place that I love very much and is very much a part of me and my upbringing. And there's a truck reversing, and I'm just gonna soldier on because I am not editing this. And yeah, so I imagined her sitting on this big back deck of this beautiful home on the South Coast and looking out over this, you know, property, gorgeous country property, sitting in front of a laptop with a cup of tea. Big surprise. And she was in her late 40s, early 50s, and she looked healthy and well and content and calm. And I immediately burst into tears when I saw her, because it wasn't so much that I could imagine myself being happy and well and healthy, but that I could see a future for myself, which, as you would know from other videos that I've made, it was only like 2 days before that I had tried to end my life and didn't really see any hope or a future, and was just going off like my last ditch effort to maybe see if there was a chance that I could live, just basically live and survive. And that's why I went to see my GP, and that's why I was sitting there in front of my psychologist, Kate. And it was such an overwhelming experience to realize there was still something in me which wanted not just to survive, not just to live, but wanted a good life and wanted better for myself. Because I think when you don't love or like or respect yourself, you don't think you deserve any of those things, so you don't even bother imagining that you can have them. That's my experience anyway. And clearly there was something still buried in there which thought that there was hope for me and that there would be a life for me and a life worth living. And Kate got me to imagine a conversation where I was asking this future recovered version of myself what she had done to get there, and to ask her what life was like now that she was better, which is really just me projecting what I imagine a life without my eating disorder could be. It was all a very, very effective exercise that she came up with, because it looked like it was one thing, but it was achieving so many other things. For instance, it gave me an incentive, it gave me something to work towards, it gave me hope and a goal, and it gave me something that I didn't even realize I already had, which was that I was hopeful and I was not a lost cause. And then it also gave me this insight into, if I commit to this, if I commit to recovery, if I work hard and I show up for myself and I do everything that I'm advised to do, there's a chance that this could work. I didn't know if it was going to work. I didn't know if I was going to get better. I didn't know if I'd ever become this person who apparently I thought I might have the capacity to be. I didn't know if recovery was going to work. I've always said that. I went into this thing with probably not a lot of faith that it would work. And then I was just given these amazing tools and skills which worked for me. Something like that may not work for you. It may be something worth mentioning to your treatment team, your psychologist or psychiatrist. It might not, but it definitely helped me, because it A, told me I wanted to live, B, told me that I didn't just want to live, but I wanted a shot at making my life a good one. And it also didn't let me get stuck in a spiral. That set the tone for all of our interactions from a psychologist-patient standpoint, that Kate never let me get stuck in a vacuum. Our goal at the end of every session and overall was to keep me looking forward, to keep my eyes on what we were working towards, what all of this was really for. It wasn't just to get me well. She wanted me to know that there was a life worth living on the other side of all of this, which wasn't just being better, it wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. And that image of my future self became sort of like a standard for me. I talked about that video, or Scuff7 mentioned that video where I talked about my ex who messaged me and how I responded very differently to how I used to respond to him when I was sick and we were seeing each other, which was that I was like, no, I'm sorry, my standards and my expectations for myself are not what they were when you knew me. It's like talking to a different person. And there was an apology. He did apologize to me in that interaction, and then I never responded because I got the apology. But he didn't want to, not that he didn't want to apologize, he didn't get in touch with me to apologize. I think he got in touch with me to start things up again. But he did apologize, and that was because I expected it, not because he just volunteered it. And the apology meant a lot, because I knew I was owed that apology, and I knew that his behavior was abhorrent. And that's a part of what that exercise achieved, that I could look back and be like, wow, I maybe am becoming that person who I envisioned all those years ago. Because even when I was sitting in that therapist or psychologist office having that initial doing that initial exercise with Kate, I was seeing this horrible person and letting him treat me terribly, and trying my best to prove that I was worth his time and worth his awful, awful company. And then 3.5 years later, it would never occur to me to be in the same room with this person, let alone have a Facebook conversation that goes beyond, you were vile, you need to take ownership for your behavior, and please insert apology here. So at first it was blind faith. As the years have gone on, and every time I stand up for myself, or every time I am compassionate, or I achieve something and my reaction isn't to be like, well, you didn't do that perfectly, so that doesn't count. Every time I do something which I think that future version of myself would do, that ideal future version of myself, which funnily enough, when she got me to imagine the ideal future version of myself, I didn't like have any thought for what she looked like or what she weighed. It was all about her qualities and her abilities. Isn't that funny? Because I certainly do that now, because I've reached a point where I am very neutral about not just my looks but other people's. But back then, that was my entire worth, was my looks. But when I thought about my future self, her looks, her physicality, her weight didn't even occur to me in all the things that I wanted to be. I just realized that just now. Wow! It's seeing like a realization in real time. So like I said, that was just something that was effective for me. I don't know if that would be effective for anyone else, because there's certainly things that people have shared with me where I'm like, that didn't help me or didn't work for me. But that was a very, very powerful tool that my psychologist gave me, which I still use to this day. Anyway, guys, I've got to go, but I will be back. I'm going to try tomorrow to do a body issue video. The reason I haven't been making as many videos this week is because I passed the 40,000 word mark with my essays yesterday, which is massive because I am aiming for a 75 to 80,000 word limit in total. So very exciting, and it's been very emotional because I think I've avoided writing the really confronting dark parts, and I've just had to bring up a lot of stuff that is not fun but is necessary. So I'm really trying to focus on that at the moment because I want to get it done. The procrastinator in me wants to throw my laptop in the garbage. Anyway, guys, come and find me on Instagram and Twitter under What Mia Did Next. You can find me on Snapchat under that as well. Come and join the forum if you haven't already. All those links in the description box below. I will see you tomorrow or the next day with the next video. In the meantime, as always, much love. Take care. Bye, guys.